everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Brooke Faye. If you're new to this channel, I'm an attorney and my page is about law, personal finance, and lifestyle. And this segment today will actually be dealing with that personal finance, but more in the finance space for small businesses. So just a little bit of background about me. I've worked with the Small Business Administration, and I'm really passionate about helping small businesses develop and thrive. So this is something that I'm really passionate about, seeing entrepreneurs grow. So I can't wait to start this segment with you today. So this video will be talking about the 4 major things that I always recommend to small businesses to get started right from the jump. And even if you're a small business who is already doing your work today, this is something that you really need to make sure that you do in your business for it to be successful. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that I always recommend to businesses is to consider your entity type. So when you're forming a business, the formation stages, you always need to consider your entity type. And when I say entity, this means whether you want to be formed as a sole proprietorship, an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, a partnership. There are so many entity types out there, and the benefits of these entity types deal with not only protection for the owner and its employees, but also for tax purposes. So there are major differences between these entity types, which I can go over in a completely separate video, but I think it's important to consider and probably consult with an attorney which entity type is best for the business that you're pursuing. Even though I mentioned sole proprietorship with that, I do want to put a disclaimer. Even though that is a type, it does not give you some of the benefits as some of the other formation types does. It does not give you that limited liability as an LLC, an S Corp, or a C Corp will. Sometimes partnerships also have that limitation. So it's just important that you know the different types of entities and how they can be beneficial for your business and which one works best for you. Okay, so the second thing rolling into that I would say is very beneficial for businesses to understand is keeping track of your expenses. And another word for that is bookkeeping. I can't say this enough. So as an accountant by trade, I have done bookkeeping, have done tax planning, and bookkeeping to me is one of the number one things that small businesses should keep track of and make sure they do on a monthly basis. This is important because once tax time comes at the end of the year, you don't want to go around scrambling trying to track your expenses and make sure that you can take these proper deductions come tax time. So bookkeeping really helps you take account of all of your expenses, your income, and in doing so, it limits your liability based on what you're going to owe to the IRS. So bookkeeping is so essential. If you don't know about bookkeeping and accounting software and just how to keep track of your bookkeeping, you can always hire an accountant outside, or you can go and you can do something like QuickBooks and learn how to do it yourself. So those are just basics for bookkeeping, and they're just really important for small businesses, especially when it comes time for tax time. Third thing I have is tax planning. So tax planning really kind of, the first two when it comes to entity formation and bookkeeping. Next comes the tax planning as well as tax preparation. So of course, April 14th comes around, or if you choose to do an extension, it can be a few months after that. It's important that you are prepared for your taxes. And that's where the entity formation and bookkeeping come in. It helps keep you prepared for that tax time, so you can just fill out those forms and give those forms to your tax preparer. In addition, a lot of people overlook this part of taxes. They overlook the tax planning aspect of tax preparation. So generally, you file your taxes on April 15th, or if you do an extension, it might be later. But after that, you want to do a look at your taxes. You want to see, okay, what were some things that I probably could improve on next year? Are there any deductions that I could maximize on? How am I going to grow my business? How am I going to, get the best effective tax rate? Even though I say, the best effective tax rate, I do want to go ahead and mention that for 2021 right now, the Jobs Act is still in effect, which keeps the effective tax rate at a flat 20%. However, we do not know when this will change. And in the past few years, prior to the Jobs Act, there was not a flat tax rate. So there could be in the future opportunities where the tax brackets are different for businesses just as they are for individuals. And it's important to make sure you have the lowest possible effective tax rate as possible. So some things that I'm, saying right now when it comes to taxes may only be applicable today. However, it may change in the future based on the tax code and the provisions in that. So that's why it's so important to consider tax planning. You have to keep up to date with the provisions. You have to make sure you're maximizing as best as possible for your business. Because the goal is you want to be able to take home as much money as possible. You want your business to be able to keep as much money and capital as possible. So tax planning is the number one thing that kind of helps with that. Okay, so the fourth thing that I have, which I think is very important for businesses to do, which is sometimes overlooked, is outsourcing. And I mentioned outsourcing because I know how difficult it can be in those early entrepreneurship stages when you're not bringing in a lot of revenue to want to outsource any of your work. However, as your business grows, I believe it is so important to outsource work. In doing that, you're able to focus more on your craft. When you outsource, you not only are able to focus more on your craft, you're able to ensure yourself that it was done right. So instead of me doing, like, if, I started a business and I didn't have an accounting background, instead of me doing the bookkeeping and spending hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out, I could just outsource that work to somebody else. Have somebody who already knows how to do it, who can do it efficiently and right, and just pay them. And in the time they, spent, just pay them for the amount of time they spent preparing it. And those hours are also saved on my end, and I can spend more of that time actually growing my business. I think a lot of people underestimate how much time it actually takes to learn how to do bookkeeping, to learn, how to write basic legal documents. It actually takes a lot of time. And even if it doesn't take a lot of time, you have to question yourself whether you did it right. So I think outsourcing is so beneficial. I think a lot of people take it for granted. Whether that can, I know I mentioned accounting and law because those are my skill sets. However, it can be graphic design. It can be computer engineering. It can be anything. I think businesses have to do all of those things. I think it's so important to outsource. So again, I say this to say, spend your time trying your best to focus on your craft. I think if you do that, your business will build and grow a lot faster than you think versus trying to do everything. Okay, so those are just the 4 major things that I always tell small businesses when they're just getting started, when they're in those development stages, or if they're just, kind of struggling and trying to grow. Those are just 4 major tips that I, tell people that you should focus on, that you possibly consult an attorney or hire somebody in helping you, grow your business so you can benefit and get the best revenue as possible. So those are just the tips that I have for small businesses, and I cannot wait to see you guys later on in my videos. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe below. I'm on Instagram at _BrookeFaye, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.